Greetings. I'm reassembling my grandfather's Waltham model 1883 pocket watch. My current task is to install a new mainspring. In doing so, I made some mistakes and one very bad blunder. I don't want you to make them too. The mainspring barrel uses a T-end mainspring. I knew going in that this would be challenging. From everything I had heard, T-end mainsprings are very tricky to install. My plan was straightforward. I'd buy an alloy replacement spring for the mainspring part number for this watch. It would come pre-lubricated, in a holder, and sealed in a pouch. Prior to insertion, I'd position it so that the T-end is aligned with the barrel's retaining hole. If it didn't engage during insertion, I would nudge it into place with steel tweezers. Simple, right? Here's what happened. I don't have a mainspring winder, so I don't have any pushers to help me in this. I'm going to use the flat end of my brass tweezers to coax the spring in. I've never done this before. I am doing this live, so here we go. I have already cleaned and manually inspected the barrel, part number 2205. I'm going to position this right over the hole. The thing is, just even picking it up and moving it adjusts the relative position slightly. So I'm going to keep on examining this. Man, if this works, I will be stunned. All right, so now I've pushed the spring so that it is flush with the top of its carrier. And now I'm working my way around the carrier, and I'm going to be pushing the new mainspring on each side a little bit. Oh man, I'm committed now. I cannot back out now. I cannot back out now. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, here we go. Oh, did I just snap in? Oh my God, it just snapped in. All right, let's see what we got. Oh wow, that's close. It is not engaged with the hole, but I'm hoping that I can coax it in. I'm going to use steel tweezers for this next bit of work. I'm going to try to coax the T-end to engage with the hole in the barrel. So I haven't blinded myself, and this thing did not go shooting across the room, so that's a good thing. I won't show you the next 20 minutes I spent working with my tweezers before I finally gave up. With some difficulty, I could rotate the spring using my tweezers. I tried to get it to engage the hole, but it never did. I had three hypotheses for why it didn't engage. One, it was also offset in a radial direction. Because the entire spring body was exerting force upon the last spiral, there was no way I could move the T-end radially. But this didn't entirely make sense because the T was at the spring's end and the hole was where the spring's end would be relative to the outer barrel wall. Two, maybe it was also offset in the Z direction, i.e. it was offset vertically. But this didn't entirely make sense either because it didn't budge when I pushed down on the T-end with my tweezers flat end. Three, there was something else going on that I simply did not understand. So I formulated a second plan. I would insert the arbor back into the barrel, attach the spring to it, and then attach a pin vise to the arbor. I would then wind the spring to relieve the pressure on the T-end. I'd use my left hand to hold the barrel and wind the spring. I'd use my right hand to nudge the T-end into place. To use a rocketry metaphor, this plan blew up on the launch pad. The new alloy spring didn't properly engage with the arbor's tang, so I couldn't wind the spring. I didn't expect this, and it was a head scratcher. When you buy a new set of tires for your car, you don't expect to have to manually sculpt the tires so they fit onto your rims. Now, I'm merely a young grasshopper. I'm a total noob here, But in the mechanical watch world, I've just learned that even though a mainspring is the correct part number you need, you shouldn't expect it to fit properly. Maybe this is true for every replacement part for vintage watches. I find this to be a little odd. I also concluded that handling a mainspring on a pin vise in one hand while nudging the T-end with the other was probably asking for a fatal accident to happen. I needed a third hand to do it safely. After consulting with my friends and my class instructors, I formulated a third plan. I would insert the arbor into the barrel and use a bench block as my work platform. I would use round nose pliers and double knot tweezers to adjust the spring to engage the arbor's tang. By the way, I'd like to give a hat tip to the Watch Repair Tutorials channel for its excellent video on tempering and molding mainsprings to arbors. Anyway, I would attach a pin vise to the arbor, clamp the pin vise in a vise, and wind the spring. Then I would nudge the T-end into place, after which I would unwind the spring. I got conflicting advice from people I trust on whether I should temper the mainspring's arbor end. I elected to attempt this first without tempering and to try tempering only if I didn't make good progress. I made some initial progress, but then it ground to a halt. So I tempered the arbor end of the spring using a digital soldering iron set to 230 degrees Celsius. Either because of the tempering or because I changed my bending technique right about at the same time, I finally got the spring to wrap around the arbor much more securely. But I committed a dreadful sin. I worked on the spring while it was inside the barrel. Why? I reasoned that since I didn't own a spring winder, I would have to hand insert the spring if I removed it from the barrel to work on it. And I could damage or kink the spring by doing that. Plus, I'd have to clean it and re-lubricate it. So why take the risk? Keeping it in the barrel while I worked on it seemed to be the sensible choice. I didn't realize I would inadvertently scratch the barrel's inner wall with the ends of my pliers and tweezers. That was the worst thing I could have done. A watchmaker's prime directive is to leave no trace. That was the first thing we were told in Watch 101. Nobody should be able to tell that you ever touched the watch. And my blunder left a lot of trace within the barrel. After the spring work, I tried winding the spring using a pin vise attached to the arbor. The pin vise started slipping after just 2 revolutions because it didn't get a sufficient grip on the arbor. So I went back to the drawing board and formulated yet another plan to engage the T-end. I would install the keyless works back onto the watch's main plate. Then I would insert the open mainspring barrel onto the plate. I could then wind the spring normally using the watch's own hardware. When the spring was fully wound, I could nudge the spring's T-end into the hole. Here's what happened after I installed the keyless works. Here's the crown. And then here is the arbor and mainspring in the barrel. We have the barrel and the spring, and let's see, let's get this. There we go, we've just engaged. Now this will also be a test of whether the arbor engages with the tang under real use. So let's see what happens. There we go. See that? The arbor's turning. Now what I have to worry about is the spring. Look at that, we're winding the spring. Yeah, the spring deforming and popping out. I've also, and I should have shown this to you, I also placed a black Sharpie mark on the outside of the barrel, opposite where the hole is that the T-end will have to engage. So as I wind, I'm removing coils from the outer edge of the barrel. Yeah, see, it's gonna slip because the T-end isn't engaged with anything. So what I have to do is do this. I'm pressing down on the spring with my fingers so it doesn't slip. Oh, no. Oh, shoot. No. So the spring is slipping in the barrel because, of course, the T-end isn't engaged with anything, which is exactly why we're here. grab that T end before it passes around again. Okay, so it's pretty much right where the hole is, and now I have to, no, don't go past it, don't go past it. Why is that not engaging? All right, I'm going to let it all out. So I'm using the back end of my brass tweezers to both keep the spring down in the barrel and prevent the T end, damn it, so close. Let's keep it down, winding the spring. I'm going to slowly rotate the brass tweezers. Now, why won't this engage? I'm probably deforming the spring all to hell, but you know, worst comes to worst, I can buy another spring. God, come on. Fuck. Well, the spring catapulted itself out of the barrel. There were two factors contributing to this attempt's failure. One was my lack of experience with mainspring manipulation. I spent time experimenting with different ways of guiding the spring into position that a more experienced watchmaker wouldn't have bothered with. And I'm betting someone with more experience would have known the chances of the spring escaping the barrel catastrophically as it did were high. Two, remember how I had wondered if there was an unknown issue preventing the T-end from engaging? Well, I found this nugget of advice on the NAWCC forums. Some users said that on modern alloy springs, the T-ends are sometimes too large for the barrel holes. You have to file down the T-ends a little so they properly engage the holes. Now, when I read this, I was absolutely floored. I couldn't understand why the end didn't engage. I looked to myself first for the cause, and I concluded it was a misalignment that I just wasn't seeing. The end seemed to pass right over the hole, so why wasn't it engaging? Well, if the T-end's pin was too large, there was no way it would ever stay in the hole. And once again, I'm just mystified. When you buy an electric appliance, you don't have to file down its plug so that it fits properly into your wall receptacle. But with mechanical movements, I guess you shouldn't ever trust that anything will fit, even if it's advertised and marketed as being the specific part number you're looking for. Maybe it's too costly for vendors to do more accurate machining of the replacement parts. So they get the dimensions 85% to 95% of the way there, and you're expected to do the remaining work. Anyway, I've now formulated a fifth plan. I'll buy a new alloy mainspring because this one has been manipulated too much and I don't trust it and I just want to start over fresh. While it's still in its enclosure, I'll file the T-end pins down a bit and form the spring around the arbor. Then I'll get assistance from my Norwest School of Horology instructors to use one of the school's winders to insert the spring into the barrel. And if I need to finesse the spring to get the end engaged, I'll do that only under my instructor's direction. I've learned my lesson that this was quite a bit beyond my capabilities on my own. So here's what happened. I've got some new equipment. I have a Epson DC21 document camera that I picked up for $175 on eBay. It's 5 years old, so old technology, but it's a nice little package. And instead of having to mount my iPhone on a small tripod and have it lean over my work area, I have a camera that's basically directly above where I'm working. And so the video should be from a better vantage point. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to closely examine the barrel. I'm going to clean this out with Ronsonol and get all the debris out of there, little microscopic bits of debris. So I'm going to do that. And for this, I am going to work on making sure that the pin on the T-end is the right size to fit inside the barrel. And the goal, of course, is to do that without causing the spring to launch out of the enclosure. So here we go. And here is the new mainspring. And it is indeed in its enclosure. And we do not want to do anything to risk that. I'm going to be holding it like this while I work on the pins. Let's just see if the pins will fit the hole in the barrel. And the answer is they will not go all the way in to the barrel hole. So now I need to file down the pin while being sure to not have the spring eject from the enclosure. I'm pulling the file from inside to outside to minimize the amount of debris that would get deposited on the spring. And I'm being careful, very careful, to not push down on the spring. Although now I'm going to use a sawing motion, so I guess what I just said before was a little bit of a lie. That statement is no longer operative. It looks so innocent and inert, but there's a huge amount of energy stored in this spring. Well, for the barrel hole, that's looking very good. Okay, I think I'm done filing. Now I will use Rodico to pick up any debris from the spring, and then I will use, just completely re-clean, use Roncinol or maybe just isopropyl alcohol to clean out the inside of the barrel. What I'm going to do is place the spring around the arbor, and of course the danger here is we don't want it to bolt out of the enclosure, and kind of see how bad it is just as is, and then start to form it. And of course I've got my bench block here, and I'm going to do this, and yeah, I think I'll use one of these holes, and then we'll see how we do. Now, the first thing that's a little odd is, somewhere on the web I picked up a little factoid that when you buy a new spring, that the colored side always goes down when you insert it. But in fact, that's not the case here. The right way relative to the arbor to position the spring is with the colored side up. So that little factoid is absolutely not true. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to maybe try to drop this in this way. And of course, I have to be very careful to not cause the spring to escape its enclosure, which I am very scared about. Now, a good sign actually is that the inner coil of this mainspring is actually pretty tight, and you see that it actually doesn't admit the arbor, so it's kind of coiled up tight. And it'd be nice if I don't have to form this at all. What I want to do now is carefully expand the inner coil without having the spring launch itself across the room or possibly into my face and eyes. So how do I do this? I don't want to just blindly, although I can blindly press because the spring is resting on the bench block. So yeah, I can just kind of press down, can't I? Okay, whoops, okay, I can do that. What I can't do is press down on the outer ring. That would be super wicked bad, but I can press down on the spring itself because that is resting on the arbor. Ooh, almost there. Is that it? Okay, so the arbor is now positioned within the inner coil. I think, oops, I'm going to put on my other finger cots. I was expecting to have to do a lot of forming with this spring around the arbor because the previous new alloy mainspring that I purchased, that I wound up ejecting out of the barrel, needed a lot of forming. But this spring is gripping the arbor just fine, I think. Son of a gun. Oh, no, wait, maybe it isn't. No, it is. I mean, I'm going to do a little test here. Oh, man, I do not want to screw this up. I'm going to do a little test here. I'm going to turn the arbor slightly using my steel tweezers. Yeah, that's gripping the spring. You know what, boys and girls? I don't have any forming that I have to do. Wow. How did I get so lucky? So this is wild. For the record, the eBay vendor gave me a mainspring, brand new alloy mainspring that had to be formed around the arbor, and I went through a lot of trial and tribulation to make that happen. And then I ordered a replacement spring, in other words, the same spring again from the vendor, and you know what? It is just perfect around the arbor. A, that's good news. B, WTF, right? Why couldn't you do that for me on the previous spring? So now what do I want to do? I guess I disengage at the moment, and I will use the Norwest School of Horology's winders, one of the winders, on Monday night to insert this into the barrel. To prepare for that, I am going to now remove this arbor from the spring. Yeah. Now that I got it in there really nicely, I got to get it out of there. We're gonna push down on the spring, not on the ring, but on the spring, while the arbor is in a smaller hole, just to keep it stable. And I want to get the arbor out of here so I can use the winder Monday night. There we go. Arbor's out. Spring has not blinded me or catapulted itself across the room. That's a good thing. I think I will take some Rodico to, just because I've been handling it a little bit and manipulating it and pulling it back and forth. I'm going to take some Rodico to the arbor and to the inner coil of the spring just for grins. But we are set to go for inserting the spring Monday evening. So we have here my project from home. I have filed down the T-ends, and I want to push it into the barrel. Now normally I'd be looking for a pusher that might fit the barrel, but if it fits the barrel, it just goes up to the outside of the spring. So what's the right strategy to use here?
I use the back side of tweezers to get those and just kind of work my way around very carefully, push it down a little at a time. And
so you don't use a pusher at all?
no, typically not. If I have one that fits that bullet tool, because it only has 4 pushers on it.
Okay.
If I can get away with using the bullet tool, I use that, but otherwise I use tweezers. You gotta be careful because you only got one shot at it, and if it comes out and it doesn't go in the barrel properly, you gotta either rewind it with a mainspring winder or put it in manually.
I was hoping to use a pusher because I tried using the tweezers the first time and didn't turn out well.
Other than that bullet tool, I've never seen a pusher tool for pushing in a mainspring. It's generally you use pegwood or your tweezers.
I missed last week. What was just kind of
Meaning you see it used for a pre-set up spring, but winding. But what is it about this situation that makes using a pusher a bad decision?
If the pusher isn't absolutely perfectly the right diameter,
Right.
that's all today.
then when it pushes down, especially if it's too small,
It'll leave out one of the last coils.
it's the outer coil, which is the one that has to go in, right? The inner coils, you can massage those in, but if that outer coil doesn't go in, you're screwed.
So what about using a pusher that's, you know, slightly larger so it encompasses the
Then it
whole?
probably won't push it down very far, because it's going to hit the edge of the barrel. Then you're right back to where either use pegwood or your tweezers.
Shoot. Okay, well, I guess I'll use tweezers then. I hope I do better this time.
There is a learning curve, and it takes a few tries.
Curve?
Sometimes.
It's a curve?
Sometimes
It looked
it's straight line to hell.
asymptotic. Yes, asymptotic, but okay. All righty.
Yeah. It's another one of those things that only repetition can fix.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You make 100 mistakes, and on 101, suddenly you get it right. But, you know,
That's what happened with that harp.
Estimating where this goes in by sight. Jeez.
upside down and it somehow fit, but it's upside down, so it won't work. That happens too. Good design, nothing can go in wrong. They're starting up good designs out there. It's one of the reasons why the ETA stuff, like the 6498 and the 2824, why that stuff is so copied and why it's been around for so long. They got it right. There are a few old school movements that I'm sorry to see aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
You know, Certina made a great in-house movement. It went away.
You don't need any of the,
No, not now anyway.
They got brought back to life by some
Yeah, that's a good sound.
Yeah.
company that
How you doing?
I hear that some of the early ones they actually used in the carbonates.
I got home.
I thought I was interested too, as it turned out.
Salida early on.
So yours were head throughout my.
They made trade wheels and things like that and sold them
And it
to
hit and it
Right.
while
Oh,
I was
no.
playing. Yeah.
And it started squeezing everyone out,
So I've got.
not allowing all these
And
people.
of course it's.
I did it.
Did you say you needed a?
I did it. I got the T end into the hole.
Got it in the hole? Take some back.
The next day, I inserted the arbor into the barrel, applied lubrication, put on the cover, and sealed it all up. The mainspring is now ready to be added to the movement. So there you have it. Installing a new mainspring onto this Waltham 1883 pocket watch was simple, after only 4 tries and an unacceptable blunder of a mutilation of the mainspring barrel. Till next time, take care.